create a state of emergency. We need to create a Minister of Poverty who will cut through all the red tape that stops us from dealing with this problem, whether it's from other government departments or the civil service. We have to do something about these people who are languishing, who are lost, who are broken, who have no future. Their future has been cancelled, and we have to do something about it.
John Bird in the East End, joining us now in our West End studio. Welcome back to This Week. Good to see you. Diane, the system is rotten to the core and it traps people in poverty.
People are trapped in poverty, certainly, and where I live in Hackney, you can walk literally 100 yards any direction and you're on a big estate. But they're trapped in poverty often by poor education, by poor expectations, all sorts of things. And the curious thing is, I can show you an estate in Hackney, which you would say was an underclass estate, and there are people on that estate who have aspirations and are working their way out of it, and there are people that are locked in. It's not as simple as saying, look, there's that estate in Hackney, that's the underclass.
John?
Well, I would say that there are many, many exceptions, and I spend a lot of time with the exceptions. I also spend a lot of time with the people who are not the exceptions. And I can tell you that if you give somebody the dose of social security, you are guaranteeing almost that they will never vote, that they will never participate in democracy, that they will never get to the university, and they will never, ever get the opportunity of getting a job that will get them out of poverty. I assure you that I am not the only person saying this.
No,
There's
you're not.
an enormous amount of information. I think what politicians do, and Diane is doing the same thing, is they always talk about these wonderful exceptions. I can give you thousands of these exceptions. We're putting together a book at the moment of 150 of those exceptions.
But people who get out of the system.
But yeah, the people who got out of the systems, the people who know how to use the system and get out. But there are millions of people. We're now talking, let's not be conned by the exceptions. Let's look at the rule.
Diane, what do you say to that?
What I say to that is I'm just very wary of stigmatising people because of where they live or even how chaotically they live. One of the underlying problems why people are trapped in poverty in Hackney, for instance, is the last manufacturing job disappeared 20 years ago. And if you're an unskilled male, you know, the new economy, well, the new economy until it collapsed a few months ago, doesn't offer you anything to do.
But did the rot start in the 1980s when we lost all these manufacturing jobs, and then the people who lost these jobs were not trained or encouraged or incentivised
They were put on incapacity benefits.
to the new jobs?
I was a Social Security Minister in the 1980s, and we were already looking at the research that had been done in the United States, where a chap called Charles Murray said that from 1960, the date that John F. Kennedy became president and brought in welfare programs for the blacks, that was the moment at which black progress for the masses stopped. Because from that moment, just as John has said, they became trapped in poverty. The family structure was completely undermined, fathers drifted off, the matriarchal system, also the authority of the matriarch collapsed. The whole thing was brought to a shuddering halt by the well-intentioned generosity of the welfare state.
It's a glass ceiling.
And I think we've seen the same thing in this country. I think it was Charles Murray who wrote a book, and I think this is absolutely key. The title is key, Beyond Entitlement. If you want to get out of this, you have to get away from entitlement. What happens at the moment is, if you find yourself in a particular set of circumstances, you are entitled to money. So Karen Matthews has one child after another child after another child in order to get money. I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
Well, each child coming with a cheque on the forehead.
If she wanted a better television, she'd go and have another
Diane's
child.
rolling her eyes.
She is
Let's hear from Diane. I'll come to you in a minute.
Actually, I've heard Diane say something quite similar about people that she's...
Diane, you were rolling your eyes. Not that you do it very often, but...
You know, the reason why chaotic women on council estates have sex is for almost exactly the same reason that middle-class men in jobs have sex, because they want to, because they're not thinking about the consequences. The idea these girls are having sex just for the money, I think, misunderstands their motivation.
But
they have sex so the man,
they
have the sex so the man will stay. They have sex because they feel if they have these children for a short moment when they're in the brand new pushchair, they've got status. Their reasons for having the sex are very complicated. It's not, I will have sex and I will get a check next week.
What is the penalty for just having child after child?
There is no penalty. But you see, the thing
there isn't the stigma that there used to be.
We should not make the Matthews case it is an exception.
It's an extreme example.
I mean, it's an extreme example. Yeah. What we've got to do is get through to the fact that there are a lot of very, very ordinary working class people who have moved into the underclass, largely because what has been stripped from them is the need to be aspirational, the need to actually be a person who provides their own bread and butter. And that is the greatest
You've got
crime.
the process back to front. My father could come here and all his working life, he did a job in a factory, brought his wage back home every Friday, and he felt like a man who could look after his family. There are generations of men in Hackney who can't do that because
welfare
the economy
wasn't open
has
to your
changed.
father.
Diane,
No, it wasn't.
Welfare
Diane,
wasn't
if you
open
want
to
to
your
talk
father.
about generations, if
Yeah.
you want to talk about generations, the first generation that your family represented, what happened was they worked their nuts off, and that was the first generation. Unfortunately, a conspiracy between the left and the right meant that further generations were given social security because they thought, oh, the poor buggers, they need housing, they need everything. And what they did
have
was
that
they
first
robbed the whole generation of Jamaican people. They robbed them of the chance of making their own way in
Let's hear
life.
from Michael.
The way
Let's
that
hear from Michael.
your father had this
I
wonderful
and my
opportunity.
friends are that generation, and most of us have jobs in a profession.
John, what you've said tonight is very, very brave and helpful, but
No, it's
you
very
don't.
common.
No, but you don't offer a solution. I tell
I
you,
offer a solution.
well, I'll offer you a solution. I believe what you have to do is you have to issue money at a level where you actually can make judgments about the sorts of people you're giving the money to. You have to have a cash-limited budget, not entitlement. And you say, this money is going to go to people that we judge to be deserving.
And who is the we, Michael?
Well, it's
you?
No, I don't want to do it, but it has to be...
People like you.
No, it has to... Well, it is the same people who do the job now, but at the moment they do it on entitlement, and in future they will have
So
to do
we're
it
going to have the
on a
deserving
judgment.
and the undeserving
Correct.
poor.
Correct.
Takes us back a century and a half. That's where you think we
Can
need
we
to
just
go.
clarify?
I think we have to go to deserving and undeserving.
Let me
yes.
just clarify things here. As I understand, you're not objecting to paying unemployment benefit when
Not
people
at
lose
all.
their job. That's a given.
Not at
You're
all.
not objecting to paying disability and capacity benefit to people who genuinely find it difficult to work or cannot work at all. As I understand it, your objection is to the never-ending benefits that make it a lifestyle.
What I'm objecting to the fact that Diane Abbott and